Alright guys, so we're back with another video today in the series, and just gonna touch on storage spaces. So we've already looked at virtual machines in Hyper-V, and we made a web server, and so now what we're gonna do today is continue on in the series with I just actually booted the server up, so it's probably gonna need some updates or something like that. So so let's just see. So again, I just booted up, and of course we're not going to use this web server, so I'm gonna go ahead and delete it, obviously, because everything was public and all that stuff. So, and it was just a test, right? So I'm gonna show you storage spaces today, and there's a lot of different ways to go about adding storage to your server, and formatting hard drives and so on, and there's a lot of information online about that. But I really like how file and storage spaces works in Windows Server. So we've already got a pool here, but if you remember in the last video when we made this web server here, we put it in this NVMe disk right here, and this is kind of why I created a folder, because basically right now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete this machine, and I don't even have to worry about it, because Hyper-V is just going to delete it. And then basically now I can just go in here and delete this folder. Now inside the folder, this is where your virtual machine, where the virtual disks are. So even if you delete the virtual machine, the virtual disk it will stay. So that's why I do these folders, see, because the space is still being occupied by that virtual disk in case you made a mistake and you deleted the machine and you didn't want to delete the machine. So basically you could just go in here now, and you can just delete this, and that's gonna say it's too big, so you just permanently delete. Okay, alright, and that's all there is to it, and you can see now that's free. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start the storage spaces. So basically I'm gonna do it in reverse to delete it, and I'm gonna show you how I clean my disk, and then I'm gonna go back and do it all over again. Alright, so first of all, we've got a volume here, and if you go in the storage pool, you can see we've got the storage pool on this NVMe here, and we've got this virtual disk. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to take care of this volume. So basically what we're going to do, what I normally do is I just format it, right, because it will delete everything that's on the disk. Okay, and then I'm just going to go ahead and delete the volume. Alright, and then we're gonna go back in here to disk, and you can see our virtual disk, which is in our storage pool there, right? It shows us it's in our storage pool, the virtual disk. So we're just gonna go ahead and reset this disk. Okay, and it's gonna reset the disk. Alright, and we go back in the storage pool here, and we're just gonna delete this virtual disk. Okay, pretty simple, right? So now we still have, it's still occupied in this storage pool. Alright, so we're just gonna delete this pool. Okay, so delete storage pool. Really straightforward. Okay, actually let me turn my volume down here because that's annoying. Okay, so you can see it's primordial again, but we're gonna take it a step further. Now, luckily enough for me, I have this utility here for the OCZ, and you can see it's a Gen 3, right? And they do have their own tools for advanced formatting and secure delete, right? But before that, I'm gonna show you another way before I do that. Okay, so basically we want to get the disk information first. Okay, so if you just go here to create and format partitions, sorry, excuse me, I have had one coffee this morning. I still have to have my breakfast. So you can see it's here, and there's nothing allocated and whatnot. But I like using disk part. So you just type disk part in the command prompt there. Okay, and we're gonna list the disk. Okay, oops. And you can see we want disk number 1, right? Obviously, because disk 0, okay, that's where our server software is installed, right? That's our C drive. Okay, so we don't want, I don't think it'll let us, but we don't want to clean that one. So anyway, we want to select disk 1. Okay, so we're just going to type select disk 1, okay, and then just type clean. All right, and it's going to say, you're going to see it pop up over here, disk 1 unknown. So we're just going to initialize the disk. For now, we're just going to put MBR. We're just going to do it like that, and we're going to go back into our utility here, and it'll automatically repopulate, and you'll see here that it's 100% free, unallocated. But we're going to take a step further, and what we're actually going to do is we're just going to go ahead and do a secure, like an advanced format. Okay, so we could just do a secure erase, and it'll securely erase that NVMe drive. Okay, and it doesn't take long. I mean, it's now obviously there's different levels of secure erase. Now this is probably just a very quick, you know, maybe it only does the first few blocks of data, and you know, it's not, this is not like FIPS level or government level. There's other tools out there that you can use to run, you know, to format the disk in its entirety, and do it multiple times. For example, you could do it 3 times or 7 times depending on your FIPS level. But for us, what we're doing, advanced format is just fine. Okay, so we can even go ahead and do it again. It doesn't really matter, because like I said, this is just a test lab, and we don't have to go overboard with the securely erasing, because there isn't really anything on there anyway, and that's all going to get erased. And let's just go ahead and do a let's initialize the disk here now, and this time we're going to initialize it as GPT. Okay, and it's going to initialize, right? It's going to say that it's online and it's unallocated, and that's where we want to leave it for now. Okay, we could still refresh. All right, that's all done. Okay, so in the meantime, we can go back here and we could just refresh this. And let's just do a little benchmark here and see. There's no file system, so it's not going to work at the moment. But actually, you know what? Let's just do a quick format there, just to so we can just do a little quick benchmark on this disk here and just see, because we'll erase it again anyway. I know we're getting off track here a little bit, but let's just put okay, let's just quickly format it here, and all right, and let's just go ahead and do a quick read on it, see how it goes. And you'll see it won't do the test if there's no partition. Okay, so that's not bad. I mean, that's pretty good, right? So let's go ahead and just erase that again. Okay, I'll just erase that again, because we want to keep it with no partitions. All right, because we don't want to use this tool to partition. So let's just let this erase again. So that's all done. Okay, so you can close that, and you may not have a tool like that, so that's why I showed you. You can use the you know, the built-in tools, the disk part. Okay, and there's more information on that online, so you can always check that out later. So for now, we're just gonna go with GTP, right? Okay, so this is how I do it, and like a lot of people do their hard drives different. This is how I do it. This is kind of how I learned to do it, and it works for me. So basically when you get to your server manager, and if you don't know how to get to server manager, it's usually right here in the server manager. And I think it's in this list here as well. I think this is more or less our tools though. So in any event, you can always search it too, right? So if we go here, server manager, right? It's a desktop app, okay? And you're automatically going to have this files, these file and storage services on your server, and your server will be in the list. And you can also, if you add other servers in the future, excuse me, if you add servers here, and specifically if you have Active Directory and so on and so forth, you can actually go in here and you can actually work on other servers right from Server Manager, which is really great. Okay, so first things first, we just go to storage pools. Okay, you can see right here we've got our NVMe, our Toshiba RD400. Okay, and it doesn't have a lot of capacity, but it's okay for now. This is just a lab, right? And it says primordial, and you can do some research online, you know, in your spare time, and look at, you know, Windows storage and what primordial means and all that kind of stuff. Excuse me, I'm just drinking some coffee. So let's go ahead and create our first storage pool. So you just right click new storage pool, and you can read this bit of information here if you want. You just hit next. And you have to give your storage pool a name. So I usually just call it you know, S pool 1, whatever. You can name it pretty much whatever you want, but I just kind of stick with the topology of what I'm doing. So right now I'm creating a pool. It's a storage pool, and it's the first one. Okay, really simple. Different people have different ways to name things so they remember, because you may have to refer back to this in the future, and specifically if you have more than one pool, which you can have as many pools as you have resources available, right? So just hit next, and we're going to select our drive, which is our NVMe drive here. Okay, and you can also, if you had 2 of these drives, or 3 or 4 or 6 or 10, you could select them all and you could add them together to the pool. And that's what makes it really awesome. So for now we have the one. You just hit next, go with the defaults. Again, it shows here that it's not clustered. Alright, it shows the capacity and that it's automatic on this physical disk. Alright, you just hit create, and that's it. It's just going to create the storage pool. And you can see down here it says create a virtual disk when this wizard closes. So basically all the steps are there, like 1, 2, 3 or ABC, and you can just hit here, click this you know, and close this, and it'll automatically select the pool that you just created, okay, to keep it simple. Now you can also do it from down here, okay, in the virtual disk. So after you create your pool, the next task is you want to create a new virtual disk. Okay, same thing, and okay, and you can read this little bit of information if you want. Just hit next. Now this is a virtual disk we're making here right now, so I'm just gonna, and it's the first one in our storage pool, so I'm just gonna call it virtual disk 1. Okay, really simple. And if you want to, you can add a description. So we could just say here, if we want to, it's the NVMe, and we could just say it's a RD400. Okay, and we could just say it's 119. Oops. Gigabytes if we want, or whatever. Okay, and you could put whatever you want in here. You could even put the time and the date if you want. You know, you could say that it's you know, 11/18/2017. You can even put the time if you want, right? So we could say 6:15 p.m. whatever. Okay, you don't have to, but I sometimes put a little bit of a description just to kind of keep track of what I'm doing. You just go ahead and hit next. You can read this. Right now it has enclosure awareness, but we're not worried about that. If you're using like just a bunch of disk and whatnot, or a NAS, an external NAS or something, hit next. Now you have some options here. You have parity, mirror, and simple. Now for now, we only have the one disk, so we're gonna go with simple. Now, if you had more than one disk and you select simple, it's like RAID 0, so it would stripe the data across both disks and so on. So if you had 2, if you had 4, if you had 6 or 8, and it goes by multiples of 2. If you have mirror and you need 2 disks at least, it would copy the data on both disks in its entirety. Okay, and parity. Parity, I believe, it stripes the data. However, I believe it also makes a copy. So I think you need 3 disks. So I'm not sure what that equates to for the RAID number, but I believe it's like a combination of a RAID 0 and a RAID 1. I often go with just simple. Now, if you want redundancy, you can go with mirror. If you have more disks, I usually just go with simple because I use other alternatives to back up my information for redundancy, and we'll get into that later on when we add some more disks and stuff like that. I can do another video about, you know, backing up the server and backing up data and so on and so forth. Okay, disk redundancy. So for now, we're just gonna go with simple. You just hit next. Now you could do thin, okay, or you could do fixed. Basically, it's kind of like fixed is static and thin is dynamic. So thin, it'll only use space within this disk as it's needed, so it'll grow over time. Or you can use fixed, where it'll use the entire disk, okay, for that virtual disk. Now, the great thing about thin is you could start off thin if you're just doing it, like for now I'm just doing a lab. I could go with thin and it would only take what it needs from the virtual disk and it would grow. And the great thing about storage pools is you can add more disks later on, the same kind of disk, and then add it into the pool and populate it into the virtual disk. So it's really cool. So for now we're just going to go with fixed. Okay, so you just hit next. Now you can also specify the size here, and you could do multiple partitions and multiple virtual disks excuse me, within a pool. And there's all kinds of unique ways that you can get into disk redundancy and making all kinds of interesting you know, virtual disks and so on and so forth, and there's lots of different RAID options and stuff. But for now, excuse me, we're just gonna go with the maximum size. Okay, and you can see we're continuously losing space, right? We started off with 119, it's actually 120 or more, but as we progress, we lose a little bit because the disk needs some space for, you know, its swap and to store what we're doing. It's just the way it works, right? It says right here that the virtual disk might take additional space for write back cache, so it does use a little bit of cache. Okay, you just hit next, and that's it. You can review your selection here, and then you just hit create, and that's it. Alright, so it's going to go ahead and go and create this virtual disk for us. Now again, like I said before, we can go ahead and create a volume if we want right here. It's the next step, so we could just go ahead and hit close to keep it simple. Just go ahead and hit next, and it's going to show the server, it shows the disk, it's showing the virtual disk, it's showing the capacity. Okay, we just go ahead and hit next, and it'll automatically populate with the full size. We just go ahead and next. Now here you can mount it different ways, and this partition management, it's similar. You're probably familiar with this sort of thing when you do it in the Windows in the control panel. It's similar when you create a drive through simple volume here. It's sort of the same kind of thing. So, but this gives us additional functionality, right? So we're gonna go ahead and you can select the drive letter. I usually just go with the defaults, right? Hit next. Now you have a couple options here, NTFS or REFS, and REFS is the new file system that Windows has for Windows Server 2016. I'm not sure if it was in the last version or not, but I know it's fairly new, this this file system. You can select your your allocation size. I usually just go with default, and here I put my name. So this new volume here. So we're on our vdisk 1. So I'm just gonna call it NVMe V1. Okay, virtual disk 1. Hit next and hit create. Okay, so it's gonna go ahead and create that partition for us. Now everything is repopulated, so we can go ahead and we can see it here in our disk, right? Our volumes here, we could see that we've created this volume here. If we go down to our PC, we can see that NVMe volume 1. Okay, and you can see we've gone from 120 down to 116. All right. Okay. Now, that's about it for storage spaces. There isn't really anything else to touch on with that. It says here we need some updates. Let's check that out. I can just go ahead and install that. So that's essentially how you add a drive and configure your storage pools and all that kind of stuff. Now, if we were to go ahead and create a new virtual machine, which we're gonna do that for the next video in the series, so I'm gonna stop it here and go and have some breakfast. And so if you like this video and it helped you out, you know, go ahead and hit the like button. I'll try to put some more information into the description, and you know, share your thoughts. If you have any questions, go ahead and post them in the comment section. If you have any ideas or you need some more information regarding this process, or if you have some ideas for additional videos or some of the things that you'd like to see with Windows Server 2016, just let me know in the comments, and I'll try my best to help you you know, achieve the things that you want to do with the server. I'm really loving Windows Server 2016. You know, the possibilities are endless, and you know, I really love the ecosystem. And yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys a little later on. The next video we're going to do is probably going to be for Active Directory, and then we'll kind of get into some more stuff with that. So thanks for watching. Ciao.